Welcome to Scrollin', a podcast about the Elder Scrolls Online. I'm Ket, and this is episode number 13. Well, listeners will notice that things are a little bit different yet again this time. So you're only going to be hearing 2 voices instead of 4. And I know that last time we sort of announced that this is now a 4-person show and we're going to be doing a weekly release schedule. Well, that second part's still true. We're still doing a weekly release, but we've decided to make it a 2-person show instead of a 4-person show. The main reason for that is basically to just cut down on the workload on me. I do all of the editing, and it's quite a bit of work, and every person we add to the equation just sort of multiplies that workload, and I was having a hard time keeping up. And also, we just want to kind of make it a more kind of focused, tight package that's a little easier to digest, and I think that's kind of difficult to accomplish with 4 people. So, we had a good time making those episodes with Grim and Icy. Those guys are awesome, and they're definitely going to be back as guests in the future for sure. But I think this is the right move for now. It's just going to be me and Davius going forward, and we may have some guests on from time to time as well. You have anything to add, Davius?
Oof, a lot of pressure on me to with the stay focused. Just
you better stay focused.
Whoa, focus now. Hold on a second.
No, I don't necessarily mean it's going to be like we're like super focused and serious all the time, but just in general,
yeah.
It'll be a little easier to stay on point without having 4 different people that all have to have their turn with something to say. It's just it's a little hard to keep it all under control.
For sure, completely.
Makes sense. This is a good time to be doing it. This is early on for this show. It's kind of in its infancy, and we do have some listeners, but it's not a huge audience, so we're not really risking a lot by taking chances, trying different things, trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, what's a good feel for us.
Yeah. And I was just gonna say, I think it's huge, to take into fact that you have switched to a weekly schedule. That's pretty massive change right there compared to the schedule that you were doing. So
yeah,
I think the workload
that alone is huge, because I was doing like a 4 to 6 week release schedule before. So it's definitely a lot more work doing it every week for sure. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's all there is to that. It's a 2-person show from now on. That's the plan now. I feel a little silly because we just made this like sort of announcement on the last episode. But hey, we're just trying stuff out. We're figuring it out. And all.
Well, it was 2 episodes ago, wasn't it? Or maybe no, I guess it was the last episode. Yep, you're right.
We started with those guys 2 episodes ago, and then it was the following one where we actually announced, hey, this is what we're doing now.
Hey, just tweaking and working things.
Yeah, and everything's cool. Like, they're totally understanding. We all talked about it. We're all friends. We all still do Imperial City and play together, and everything's good in that regard.
For the pact.
Yeah. All right. And the only other announcement that I wanted to make is Stuhn's Goons is growing. We got our very first person that mailed me in-game and asked to be invited to the Stuhn's Goons. So we got 3 members now. It's me, Davius, and this other person. So I don't know if they wanted to be named on the show, so I'm leaving their name out.
What are the rest of these thousands of people waiting for?
Maybe they're spelling Stuhn's wrong, because they actually they misspelled the name in the patch notes this week. I don't know if you noticed that. But maybe that's what's hanging people up.
I'll say it and I'll say it again. Zos is really, really paranoid about Stuhn's Goons. They're listening in, and they're really sliding in. Yeah.
It's obvious. We'll see. We'll see as we get into things here. They are terrified of what the Stuhn's Goons, the havoc that we're going to wreak on Tamriel.
The passive aggressive move of misspelling, Stuhns, throw people off the scent of the guild. I mean, just unbelievable.
Unbelievable. All right, that's all the announcements that I had. Did you have anything you wanted to add here?
No, just I'm excited about the Stuhn's Goons growing. The amount of potential is just unlimited potential.
The amount of growth we've had this week, it's a 30% growth.
I mean, just massive.
33% growth.
Don't you all worry. We've got the graphs. We're looking at the charts, just skyrocketing right now.
Yeah. Or no, it's That's a 50% growth. I'm really bad at math. It's a 50% growth, right? We had 2 people, so we increased by half that amount.
Yeah.
So, man, yeah, we're doing great.
This is why we have the charts to help us with our math.
We need the charts.
What does the chart say?
All right, so let's get into the news here. They released a press release recently, the Crown Store showcase for this month, May 2020. They're just kind of previewing some of the stuff that you can expect to see in the Crown Store this month. It's mostly the kind of usual stuff that you normally see, costumes, cosmetics, that kind of thing. There is a new crafting style called the Blackreach Vanguard. It looks pretty cool. It's very kind of Nordish looking. There's a new arms pack, the Baylorg arms pack. What's funny is the concept art that they show is just a picture of Baylorg, the boss. No weapons, so I have no idea what the weapons actually look like, but it's going to be themed after Baylorg. He's just a werewolf, so
he is a cool looking boss, though.
Super cool looking, but definitely for sure. Elsewhere is getting added to ESO Plus. That's really cool. And the Necromancer is going to be purchasable separately, just like the Warden. They're going to be adding those Alliance Change tokens whenever Greymoor goes live. I'm really excited about that. And they reiterated that the Vampire and Werewolf skill lines will require that you've leveled those skills up at least once before you can buy them from the Crown Store. And I had someone comment on the last episode that kind of cleared up some confusion about this. So they're actually changing the way those skill lines work when you purchase them from the Crown Store. The way it is right now on live, if you buy, say, Werewolf from the Crown Store, it basically just works like a bite. And it's the same basically as if a player bites you, and you still have to go level that up. But now with this change, whenever you buy it, it's going to be fully leveled right out of the gate, just like the other purchasable skill lines like Undaunted and Sigil Order and all that stuff. So I think that makes a lot more sense that they're gating it in that way. Since they're doing that, it makes more sense that they would want you to have leveled it up at least once.
Yeah, they're treating it like the other skill lines. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, just kind of getting things more consistent with one another. So thank you to Tovarish for commenting and clearing that up for us. They dropped another press release just called 5 Fun Ways to Prepare for Greymoor. And I'll put a link in the description to the forum thread rather than the article itself, because I think a lot of the people who comment in the forum have some really great ideas as well. And the forum thread links to the article itself. But it's not a big thing. It's just if you're excited about Greymoor and you want to kind of get into the spirit and get hyped about it, it's just some suggested things that you could do in the game right now to sort of get into it. Any plans, Davius?
Well, I just got a comment on their 5. The very first thing they say: create a Nord.
Number one.
Who needs? Yeah, I'm in. I mean, who needs Greymoor for this? I mean, come on, guys.
Yeah, number one, create a Nord. That's always step number one.
Yeah, that's always step number one.
Yeah, are you doing anything to like get hyped for Greymoor right now?
Yeah, I mean, I've been, all my characters being Nords, I always go through and do the 2 Skyrim zones. I always go through and complete those quests with most of my characters.
On
just
every one of your
up.
Characters, that is.
Every one of my characters has to have those 2 zones completely 100%.
You have to complete all the Skyrim zones. So will the new Greymoor zone be part of that requirement for all your characters from now on?
Exactly, yes.
Okay,
100%. But I have, with that, and with that same spirit, I've been doing I've been going and doing the pre-quest with every single one of my characters, just getting hyped and prepped and ready for it. So
is it called the prologue or whatever?
Yeah.
Cool. That's actually a pretty neat little quest there.
They do actually a really good job on the prologues. That's actually something that I'm going to bring up a little bit later, but I'm very impressed with the prologues.
Cool. The only other sort of piece of news, I wouldn't even really call it news, but this is just the spot where it seemed to belong. There's sort of like a rumor that there potentially could be a new playable race in the future. So ZOS sends these surveys out to players from time to time, just kind of gathering feedback and getting people's thoughts on things. And one of the questions asked, what sorts of things would you like to see added in future expansions? And they list a bunch of things like, new class, new skill lines, new questing content, stuff like that. And well, one of the options that you can choose is a new playable race. So, that's, who knows if that's actually going to happen, but just the fact that it's listed there shows that it's a possibility that they're actually considering it could happen. So I think that's kind of interesting, and I think it's fun to think about what sort of race they could add. In the lore of this game, there's all kinds of crazy races, so it's interesting to think where they could go with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many possibilities that exist in that I think that's really cool. I mean, obviously, nothing's finalized yet, but just the idea of that is, I think, is pretty exciting idea. It would have to be like the Imperial race, right? Like it couldn't be tied to a faction.
I would think so. It'd have to be like faction neutral, or maybe they would allow you to choose a faction when you make the character or something. I don't know.
I mean, the only other way they could do it is if they did a new race for each faction, which that seems pretty huge.
Yeah, that'd be huge.
I don't know if they would do something that big, but I think this is really cool. It kind of makes sense to me that they would do this, or at least think about this, because with what they've been doing and the new stuff they've added, they've done the new classes, they've done the new skill lines, new classes, throwing in a new playable race is kind of it seemingly would be like the one next big thing that they haven't done yet. So it's like an obvious big thing that hasn't been like a regular thing that gets added to the game is new races. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, there's so many cool possibilities. I mean, there's a race of like sort of chimpanzee looking people called the Catmo. There's a race, I can't remember their name, but there's a race of like Vulpine, like fox people. Like that would be super cool. I'm betting if they did do this, it would probably just be like some other kind of elf. I think it'd just be easy for them to do that, and just adjust some sliders. But that's the thing that I would hope is that they would get real. If they do this, it would be really cool to me if they got real creative with it right now, because now obviously, let me just have my disclaimer. Not going to change my game style much.
Sure.
But I do think it's cool because right now with Khajiit and Argonian, those are kind of the only two extremely unique races that they have among playable races. So if they brought in another playable race, like you were saying with these
like
races you're mentioning, like something
Yeah.
real unique that you can, with the cosmetics out of it, you can get real unique. Like with Khajiit and Argonian, those to me have always stood out as the two most that allow the most cosmetic creativity with all the little changes and edits, and there's so many cosmetics that only work for those two races.
Right.
I would love to see another race like that.
Yeah, me too. Those two that I mentioned are the ones that stand out to me. The Catmo and the whatever that Vulpine race is called. That could be super cool. But I don't know. I mean, that's kind of getting ahead of ourselves, I think. I mean, this is just a thing on a survey, so who really knows? But it's just cool to talk about and think about.
Yeah, it's cool to think about. I think a lot of people would defer to like, throw in a giant or a troll, and I don't think they can do anything like that just because it's got to be something that's the same size. You got to think of as much as lore would be awesome. You got to think about it on the developer side too, where it's got to be the similar size. You can't have any advantages.
It's not going to be a slowed or something like that. Like a weird body shape, because all the costumes and armor styles and everything still have to fit the character model. All right, so I mean, like I said, probably who knows if that's actually happening, but just cool to talk about. So that's all that's really going on outside of PTS, unless you had anything else.
No, I don't think so.
So let's move on to PTS. So this is PTS week 3. I think it's version 6.0.2. By the time listeners are hearing this, we're just like a day before week 4. So, this might be old news by then. But it's mostly minor stuff that's happening this week. Some bug fixes, some kind of refinements to some animations, things like that. I think that alone is worth talking about, the fact that not a lot is changing, because this is usually the week of the testing cycle where any big changes would happen. They drop the patch week 1, and then they immediately start, taking feedback and figuring out what kind of bugs and things there are. And then week 2 is mostly bug fixes and minor things like that. And then week 3 is where they really implement any big balance changes that need to happen most of the time. That's kind of how the past pattern has been.
Yeah.
And usually whatever is happening on PTS right now this week is pretty close to what the live patch is going to look like. So I think they're probably pretty happy with things as they are right now. I mean, there are a few changes that we'll talk about, but for the most part, it seems like they feel good about it, and we're probably getting a pretty clear picture of the live patch.
Yeah, it seems like a big thing. Like if you go through and actually look through it, there are a lot of antiquities, bug fixes, little minor adjustments. Like it seems like a big focus is them cleaning up antiquities to have it completely ready, things like that.
Yeah, that's one of the things they're doing. A lot of refinements to antiquity, just kind of putting the finishing touches on that and kind of smoothing off the edges and that sort of thing. That's a lot of it. There's also for combat and ability changes, there's really only one significant change, and that was to the Nightblade's Veiled Strike. This is their melee spammable. Mostly Stamblades use it, but some Magblades use it too. It has a stamina and magicka morph. But it's bread and butter ability for stamina Nightblades. So right now on the live patch, the way this ability works is when you are in stealth and you hit an enemy with this ability, it stuns them and sets them off balance. Now on PTS, no longer is stealth required, but when you hit them from a flank, so when you're behind them or on either side of them and you hit them with this ability, that's what's going to stun them. So stealth isn't a part of it at all anymore. I think most Nightblade mains are probably not very happy about this for a couple of reasons. Reason number one, it's a hard CC on your main spammable ability. So, you're spamming this thing all the time, and so you're giving CC to people just kind of willy-nilly, and therefore they're getting CC immunity probably when you don't want them to have it. You're not able to save that CC for when you're about to deliver your big combo and take them out, so whenever you are ready to deliver that combo, well, it's too bad they're CC immune, so they're probably just going to be able to block it or dodge it or whatever. So Nightblades have already been struggling more and more to be able to deliver their deadly combo that they used to be so well known for. This is just going to make it even more difficult.
It just seems crazy that they're taking that stun. You're taking your control away from it. Before, if you're in stealth and not in stealth, you have complete control of knowing, okay, well, I'll be in stealth, it's going to stun. Now, with it being from a flank, that's...
and this game has a very loose definition of the word flank, so it's not going to be that easy to control when that happens at all. It's just going to be happening like crazy. This makes Nightblades even less desirable in battlegrounds, which they're already super undesirable there. But if you're just accidentally applying CC immunity to enemies all the time, you're messing up your teammates' combos as well. This is super not desirable.
I think that's the biggest impact of this is, Nightblades are already struggling in battlegrounds. They're kind of struggling to find a place, and this only makes it even more difficult for them to be kind of on that team and be a part of the team.
Yeah, totally. Because people aren't gonna, high level players, they already despise, say, like Dragon Knights who use the chain pull in ability all the time because it messes up your combo. It gives that player that you chained in, it gives them CC immunity, and if that player is a fairly well experienced player, they know how to take advantage of that fact. And they know, like, okay, I'm immune to CC right now, so I'm going to act accordingly. So this just makes Nightblades in that same category, and it's on their main spammable ability. So if you want to avoid that happening, you have to use a non-class ability in its place.
Yep.
And that kind of takes me to my next point here, which this further dilutes the Nightblade's class identity of being the stealthy assassin. So we have this main spammable ability, their main spammable ability that they use more often than anything else, that strongly encourages them to use stealth to get the stun out of it. And now it has nothing to do with stealth whatsoever. You could just not slot stealth at all or cloak at all, and this ability is still going to work the exact same way as it would with or without it. So Nightblades have been having their identity diluted bit by bit over the past couple of years. We've talked about that in previous episodes, and this is just another tiny nail in that class identity coffin.
The one thing I will say about this is that there may be something to this that in Battlegrounds, one of the issues with Nightblades in Battlegrounds is that it's very team based, and when Nightblades go into stealth and run off by themselves, that's always any high level players. That always creates an issue because now there's a team of 3 running around.
Right.
That they're always going to be outnumbered. there may be something to this that it is discouraging Nightblades from being in stealth. It kind of discourages them from going into stealth and them actually being visible. So maybe this causes them to be more of a team player. But I don't know. It's such a unique situation because, like you said, I mean, a Nightblade it really does seem like they're kind of slowly deteriorating on their identity.
Well, and Nightblades just don't make great team players. Their class isn't designed that way. They don't have any real synergies to share with their team. They don't really have a lot of group utility to offer, Stamblades especially. And so, yeah, you're right. I mean, them kind of being not so encouraged to use stealth helps a little bit, but like I was just saying, in its place, they have this willy-nilly CC that they're throwing around everywhere.
Yeah, the bonuses that you gained from not going to stealth now are just completely lost by throwing a CC like crazy.
In my opinion, the value that Stamblade can add to a battleground is just truly being able to gank people and take them out very quickly.
Yeah.
If you can do that, then by all means, use your stealth, go nuts. If you can take people out quickly, then great, do that. This is not going to help them do that at all, and it's going to make it even more difficult for them.
Yeah, that's the only time on a battleground where a Nightblade, if it's a truly successful Nightblade, if they're just racking up kills left and right as they're roaming around the map by themselves, then it is really beneficial. But
yeah, because in that case, the rest of the team isn't fighting outnumbered because that dude is taking enemies off the map at a frequent pace, So anyway, I don't know. I feel like I don't even play a Nightblade hardly at all, and like when I fight against them, I like get irritated. I like really don't like them, but I've been feeling sorry for them a lot here lately. And it's sad to see.
Yeah, I get that. I kind of feel that same way. It's still one of the it's one of the original classes, and so to see them, it's a bummer to see them and just kind of see them shunned by the rest of the PvP world.
Yeah, and their place has always been like in Cyrodiil. Like that's kind of where their play style, I guess, belongs. And even in that environment, it's becoming more and more difficult for them to thrive. And there are good Stamblades, don't get me wrong, but like I've said before, those are just good players who would be good on any class, and that's just the class they choose.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Enough lamenting about Nightblades. There are a handful of set changes. We'll start off with the mythic items here. So Bloodlord's Embrace. This is the one where that first week we were talking about this, we were not very stoked about this set, right? It seemed kind of boring to us. Turns out all they really need to do to capture my interest is just crank these numbers up. That's all it takes. So as a reminder, this is the one-piece mythic item, the chest piece, where when you wear it, when you bash an enemy, you give them a curse, and then from that point forward, you restore magicka when you block an enemy, or when you block an attack from that enemy, and that happens once per second. So the amount of magicka that you restore, it was 685 every time you block from that cursed enemy. Now it's 1,535, so more than double.
What a buff.
What a gigantic buff. That's the one and only change they made, is just jacking that number up. And now I've gone from meh to this set to, man, I need to get a hold of one of these things real bad. So this would obviously be amazing for any Sword and Shield magicka build. But the thing that I'm really curious about is, what about frost tanks? So I did a little fiddling with numbers here. So according to the UESP build editor, your base block cost is 1,730, right? And if you equip a frost staff, it costs magicka instead of stamina. So this thing is giving you 1,535 magicka when you block. So that means effectively it actually costs about 200 magicka to block with a frost staff if you're wearing this piece. And that's without champion points. If you factor champion points into the equation, you can get your block cost down to about 1,300. So in that case, you're actually gaining magicka when you block with a frost staff.
That's an awesome idea.
So that's super interesting. I know a lot of people have been like really wanting frost tanks to kind of be taken up a notch or two. I mean, they've been viable for a while, but for really elite end game stuff, really kind of not. I wonder. I mean, I really don't know. I don't have a lot of experience, especially like with PvE tanking. But I do wonder if this makes Frost tanks the new tanking meta. I don't know. If anyone listening has any insight that they'd like to share, maybe tell me why that could or could not be the case. I'd love to hear it because, like I said, I don't have a lot of tanking experience, but that seems wild.
Yeah. Well, and it's really good on any tank. It seems like any tank could benefit from this.
Any tank whatsoever, for sure. So that's cool. The Thracian Stranglers. So I guess a bit of a nerf to this one, which I'm glad because I'm freaking terrified of this thing, man. So in addition to the 2% damage taken per stack, so let me just remind everyone, this is a thing where you kill an enemy and you gain these stacks, up to 20 stacks. And each stack increases your damage taken by 2% and gives you, what was it, like 150 spell damage per stack. So you get up to like 3,000 spell damage and 40% additional damage taken when you have all 20 stacks. So they're adding, let's see here. So your healing taken and your damage shield effectiveness are also being reduced by 2% per stack. So you'll be taking 40% less healing as well, and your damage shields will be 40% less effective in addition to you taking 40% more damage. That's you're giving all that up in exchange for a stack of 3,000 weapon damage. Now they do point out, they say, please note, this set still has the opt-out mechanic of activating crouch or invisibility. And I think that's an important thing to note. So if you have all your stacks and you recognize a situation where, like, I'm probably going to die right now. I'm outnumbered. I have all these stacks. I'm taking all this additional damage. So you can just opt out. You basically just have to do a quick teabag. You don't even have to go fully into stealth. You just tap crouch and then stand right back up. All the stacks are gone. You're taking a normal amount of damage to everyone else. You have a normal amount of healing. Your shields work normally, but you've lost that 3,000 stack of spell damage. I wasn't really considering that, but I think that is cool that you can just very quickly be like, I want these stacks gone right now.
Yeah, I think this is a good change. I mean, the amount of damage this is going to add to a character is terrifying.
Yes.
But I also think this is a good change. Make it more risky to get that amount of damage. I like that change. And I think really good players are going to learn how to make that a part of their play styles. Maybe they get up to 10 stacks, or maybe they get up to 7 stacks, wipe a group and then crouch, restart over, or if they get up to 20 stacks, and like you said, I mean, I think
you can learn how to kind of find where your sweet spot is and work it. Yeah.
I think that they're going to learn, all right, I need this amount of stacks, and then to go and, take out this group and things like that. I think players are really going to learn, what certain amount of stacks, where they want to be based on the situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is good. I think a lot of people were curious about Magsorks stacking shields wearing this thing. So this definitely addresses that concern, I think. So this next one you wanted to add to the list here. Winter's Respite. This set now properly functions with Necromancer tethers.
Yeah, I didn't even really think about this. I guess, this was just a simple bug fix they did, but the Necromancer tethers are 0 cost, and this automatically procs if you put something on the ground, which a tether would count for that. Yeah. And so you have full control of this proc set. You get to choose when, now it still has a 10-second cooldown. So once you do proc it, that's set for 10 seconds.
Right.
But
so you
this
just
seems
save
like
that tether for when you want that. I think the point you made of the tether being free is pretty huge, because this is a very strong healing proc that this set provides, and to get that for 0 cost is significant.
Yeah, and guaranteed 100% uptime, because it's a 0 cost. So every 10 seconds you just hit that tether, and they've done a really good job to make necromancers always have corpses. It's very easy to have corpses for a necromancer, so you can be hitting those tethers. This seems like a kind of a scary combo for necromancer healers. This could be honestly, this could be interesting.
That could be really, really cool. All right, well, let's move on to Stuhn's favorite. Now, do we need to have a moment of silence?
Let's just all just take a moment.
Stuhn's favor, we hardly knew thee.
Gosh.
It has been significantly nerfed this week on PTS, substantially nerfed. So last week, they nerfed it last week too, I think a reasonable amount. So last week, the version of Stuhn's was it would give you 11,130 spell or physical penetration against off-balance targets. Right, so anytime you damage someone who is off balance, you just have this amount of penetration against them. Now, it works more like the Armor of Truth. So you gain 5,312 physical spell penetration for 10 seconds when you damage an off-balance enemy. So now it's a 10-second buff that you get when you do damage to someone who is off balance, rather than just having that penetration against an off-balance target. It's less than half the amount of penetration that we had last week. So just for comparison's sake, you can compare this to Spinner or Spriggan. Those are basically just the same sets, but just a Magica or Stamina versions of each other. Those sets give you 3,450 penetration at all times. No condition required. Just wear the set, 3,450 penetration. So think of Stuhn's favor here with the 5,312 penetration. In a 1v1 fight, you give a player off balance, and then when that off balance ends, they get 15 seconds of immunity to off balance. So over a 20-second duration, you're going to have at least 5 seconds of downtime on Stuhn's favor, and that's assuming that all you're doing is just spamming Dizzying Swing the whole time, right? So actually, realistically, you're probably going to have more downtime than that. So, but assuming you're just spamming Dizzying Swing, that actually averages out to about 4,000 penetration over the course of time. So if Spriggan and Spinner is giving me 3,450 unconditional penetration all the time, I just don't know if it's worth me trying to worry about, well, have I damaged an off-balance target recently? Do I have my buff up? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm probably just going to be better off putting Spriggan on, and I don't have to think about anything. I just have that penetration. It's still a very good amount of penetration.
And what if they block your ability you're trying to set them off balance with?
Yeah, absolutely. So 1v1, absolutely do not use this set. Use Spinner instead or Spriggan. BGs would be the ideal environment for this set. The developers refer to it as a target-rich environment. So there's probably a lot of people who are off balance all the time. So if you just have like caltrops on the ground or something like that, and someone who's off balance walks through it, then boom, you get the buff. So you're probably going to have a high uptime on this if you have a lot of AoE in a BG. But even so, to me, it adds to the mental load. There's BGs are chaotic. There's a lot of just like in the moment fast decision making you have to make. And to me, it's already like quite a lot to keep track of in my mind. And to have this other layer of, oh, have I damaged an off balance target? Do I have my damage buff? Yes or no? It might be too late. I might be dead by the time I've processed that information.
Yeah. And is that going to be an easy buff to see, to know you have it or not know you have it?
Yeah. I don't know if there's a visual indicator or not. So yeah, I mean, Armor of Truth suffered the same fate. It was like a super awesome set. I mean, you experienced this. You were using that set, right?
I experienced this firsthand. Armor of Truth. I loved it. Then they made the changes. That's why this is just another example. ZOS has been listening in. They're terrified of Stuhn's goons, so they nerfed it. We're still strong, still going. They listen in again. They're terrified again. They're like, you know what? We've really got to... Like,
they got that third member now. They've grown by 50%.
Have you seen their charts? Oh, my gosh. Yeah. So, they're just, they're terrified of these Stuhnskins. They're trying to bring us down. But we're still going. We're not going to let this
stop. We're still going strong. It's gone from, okay, everybody gets a free set of Stuhns to now everyone's required to have a set of Stuhns.
Everybody that joins, you have to take your set of Stuhns. You have to wear it on Goon Night.
Yeah.
Goon Night might just be us getting steamrolled now, but we're still going to do it. It's still
happening.
It's team building, guys.
I think this is actually good for the guild, because we kind of get turned off by like being hardcore, like strict to the meta. We don't really like doing that, and it looked like this set was very much going to be the meta. So I think it's good that it's probably not going to be the meta now, but we're still going to be like championing it like it's the best thing ever.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it'll be cool. I mean, all jokes aside about the Stuhn's goons and all of that, I am glad that this set was toned down, because kind of like the Thracian Stranglers, I was a little bit afraid of just what the PvP environment's going to be like with this out there. So I'm glad they toned it down. I just think, like they often do, they went too far with it, and now it went from being a set that was overshadowing everything else in the entire patch to now being one of the least interesting things in the whole patch.
Yeah, so two things. One, it's interesting the note they say similar to Armor of Truth, because as someone who used Armor of Truth at its during its glory time, it was a great set, and then when they made that change, I don't know anybody.
Yeah, it has greatly fallen out of favor.
It's just not used anymore. So it's interesting that they have to have the numbers to see that everybody stopped using Armor of Truth. So it's interesting to see, okay, we're gonna make this a little more similar to Armor of Truth style, and it's I don't know, that was interesting to me, because it
seems to be like a strategic decision, they want the set to be less popular, and I don't know if it's necessarily strictly from a balance perspective. I wonder if they have some chart written up where they want these sets to be more desirable than these sets. I have no idea. It's just speculation, but it just But you're right. I mean, it seems obvious. Like, they can see what happened with Armor of Truth, surely. So they want this set to be just as popular as Armor of Truth. It's kind of what you can infer there.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, and so the second thing with these changes, they've kind of changed that. Like, they've kind of changed my whole mindset of what we're going into. I don't think we're going into this crazy damage glass cannon anymore. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be some meta. You'll probably see some of those builds out there.
Sure.
But in general, it's probably not going to be. I mean, I think damage will be high. It'll be higher than it is this patch. But it's not going to be like this insanity that we were looking at the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But Baylorg is still getting its big buff as well. So that's still going to be something to look out for.
Yep.
So anyway, let's move on from Stuhn's favor.
I just have to say, final note, guys, don't let this discourage you. Stuhn's goons, we're still going strong.
Still going strong. You are required to have a set of Stuhns once a week. Once a week, you have to send me screenshots of all 5 Stuhn's pieces, or you're kicked out of the guild. No,
me and Kev talked about it. Me and Kev talked about we might run 10 pieces of Stuhns.
10-piece Stuhns with a 2-piece Stuhns monster set.
Yeah.
That's the meta.
That's going to be this Stuhn's Goons meta right there.
All right. Last armor set that we're going to talk about here, they got changed a little bit, is Vrol's Command. This is one of the trial sets, the tanking set. So just as a reminder, this is the one that when you do a heavy attack, it gives up to 6 players Major Aegis for 10 seconds, and that can happen every 28 seconds. Now you can give Major Aegis to all 12 members of your trial group when you do that heavy attack. The cooldown's still exactly the same. So I could definitely see some progression groups using this. Maybe if there's a group trying to get through a difficult veteran trial and they're struggling and they're wiping frequently, this could be a set that maybe a tank could equip to help them get through a difficult mechanic. But otherwise, I think with elite groups that are like trying to like set good scores and get achievements and stuff like that, I doubt this sees much use in those groups. Mostly what those guys are wanting from tanks is some way to help the damage dealers do more damage. That seems to be what they're mostly interested in there. But I'm glad that this set got a bit of a buff, because people really seemed not very interested in it at all. So this may help it out a bit.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it get buffed up a little bit, but I am slightly bummed. From its first iteration, it was I love the idea of it was this very strong tanking set, and it really just buffed all of the melee people of the group. If you're in melee, you're getting buff. You're near the tank, he's buffing that group up, and now it's more of a overall group thing. I think it was a little bit more unique in its first iteration, where now I think it'll probably still be used like you said, but it seems to kind of lost some of its uniqueness to me.
So anyway, that's Vrol's Command. Definitely good to see it get buffed. Probably still not going to be super duper popular. Anything else that you wanted to mention from the patch notes, from the PTS patch notes this week?
I think that's everything.
Sweet. Let's take a quick break and we'll come back and talk a little bit about what we've been up to here lately.
Sounds good.
All right, we're back from break. So let's talk a little bit about what we've been up to in the Elder Scrolls Online here lately. Davius, why don't you start us off, man?
Yeah, so a little unique this week, been leveling up some characters, got some new build ideas, especially for the patch launch. And so I kind of went a little old school and went back. I had never gone all the way through the Dark Brotherhood questline. I'd started on it on a couple of characters, but I'd never really gone all the way through. Mm-hmm. Finished it out, went back and actually finished out that whole quest line this week.
It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it's a really cool quest line. I think they did a really good job. It's also interesting to see the differences between kind of the older quest lines compared to the new ones. I always compare, the Thieves Guild and Dark Brotherhood are kind of like the two original quest lines to me.
Yeah, I think those were the first two DLCs.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting to go back and look at those and then compare those to Sigic Order or something like that. Like, they are fantastic. They did such a good job on them, but man, they are a grind.
They are,
because you really have to do dailies and find ways to get the skill line up before you have to gain a level before it unlocks each new quest of the main skill.
Yeah, like the story doesn't progress until you level up the skill line to a certain point.
And I don't know. When I first initially was thinking about that, I was thinking, I don't like how they did that. I don't like that they kind of locked it that way. They don't do that anymore, and I think that's a good thing, because that's one of the reasons I think a lot of people haven't completed this quest line, or I can say that's one reason that I had always started and kind of fallen off, because you get to you get into it, you get up to a certain point, and then it's like, oh, hey, you need to do, 9 daily quests before you can, 9 of these repeatable quests before you can continue with it. And it's just, you kind of get to a point where you're like, well, I'm going to go find other things to do. Maybe you do 2 of those, or you tell yourself, I'll just kind of sporadically do those, and then you just kind of fall off and get lost elsewhere in the game. So
is the Dark Brotherhood, is that the one with the Shadow Rider passive?
Yes, it does have that, which is a fantastic passive.
That's the reason to do the Dark Brotherhood, is to get that passive. If people listening have never done Dark Brotherhood before, the Shadow Rider passive, it reduces your detection radius from overland mobs by 50% while mounted. So, if you have that passive, you can just ride your horse straight through an enemy camp and they don't even know you're there at all. It's really, really awesome. If you do any kind of mat farming, or you go and hunt down sky shards, lore books, anything like that, it just makes those kinds of grinds a lot easier, because you're not drawing aggro all the time as you're traversing the land.
But yeah, overall, Dark Brotherhood, it's, if people haven't done it, I do recommend doing it. It's a great storyline. It's very detailed. So that was a lot of what I was doing within characters and games. And then the other thing that I've been doing this week, I've had just kind of this big theory crafting week. Come up with kind of some multiple characters. The first one I'm going to go into, we've already talked about this one, and I don't want to overtalk it, but I'm very excited about it, is the Never-Ending Nord vampire health build. Yeah. They've updated the build editor where it is actually working with the new jewelry. The cost reduction glyph. The cost reduction glyph is now working, and so I can kind of really see what my final numbers are. And so, in past episodes I've talked about this build. It's kind of my idea for a new Necromancer. They have so many. New Necromancer vampire, I should say. There's so many between the new vampire skill line and the Necromancer having so many blood costing abilities that free abilities or health costing abilities that I say blood costing. They're always blood themed, but health costing abilities is so I put together this idea where instead of it being a magic or stamina build, it's actually health is the main resource for the build.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I just kind of wanted to go through some of the numbers now that I can kind of finally see the actual reduction. So I'm able to do the spammable is the new vampire, the blood for blood. I did, I went with that morph. The spammable cost for this after the reduction is 713 health cost for the spammable.
Yeah. That's which like is, not even a dot tick,
Yeah. So, I mean, I really think that, and it as I have it right now, it hits for 7,000, but however, whatever percentage health you're missing, it gets that percentage damage buff. And so, just to play with some numbers, like if I'm at 70% health or 60% health even, this bumps up to a 10,000 damage spammable. So
yeah,
some really cool stuff. The other big part of it is that I have the blood mist, so the mist form. I have that cost down to 281 magicka per second.
That is really awesome.
So I feel like
hang out there all day.
Yeah,
just in mist form.
Just kind of hang out in mist form. So that build, I'm always, been tinkering. That's the one that I'm most excited about in this upcoming
and that's a
patch.
Stage 4 vampire with the Vampire Lord set and the new cost reduction jewelry. All those things are all kind of combining to bring those costs so far down.
Yes, and then the other set I went with is Bloodspawn and Ancient Dragon Guard. I went with Bloodspawn just because with all that cost reduction, now the glyphs don't affect to this, but the Stage 4 Vampire does do cost reduction on the ultimate. So I've got the ultimate cost where you can transform into that Scion down to 120. So just threw Bloodspawn on to just kind of get to that quicker and quicker.
Yeah, and we talked about this before, but it's just so cool with it costing that low of an amount and it having a 20-second duration. I think you're probably gonna almost always be in that form.
Yeah,
kind of like how werewolves, if they play right, they can kind of stay in werewolf form indefinitely, and I think you're probably gonna have a similar thing going there.
Yeah, so this is definitely the build I'm most excited about. Some other ones that I've kind of come up with this week, like I said, I kind of had this explosion of theory crafting this week. I've had a Mag Sork that I leveled up a while ago now, and Mag Sork is just not for me.
Just don't like it.
I just don't like it. We've talked about this. Mag Sork is probably the most powerful PvP class out there. If we're just talking a base level, you have a whole bunch of characters on the same level. In my opinion, I would say Mag Sork is probably the strongest.
It's either
class.
Mag Sork or any stamina build with a two-hander. It's one of those two.
One of those two.
Yeah, but I'm with you. Mag Sork, extremely powerful, for sure.
Yes. And anytime there's like a meta or a strongest class, that usually turns me off from it. I go away. And I still made a Mag Sork. I wanted to find a unique way to make one, but I just couldn't find a way to get away from the Mag Sork combo. It's such a strong combo that it just really overpowers anything else that you want to try to do with the Mag Sork.
The Curse Fury frags, typical kind of front bar setup, yeah.
Yes, I mean, you almost always have to have this. So I just kind of had shelved this character after I kind of came to that realization.
You felt like there just wasn't a lot of room for creativity to.
Yeah, I just couldn't find a creative, unique way to play it. I just felt like that regardless what I was doing, it was just going to be another Mag Sork out there. And I didn't want to do a pet Sork.
Sure. We all appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And so with kind of, you kind of inspired me to do this. So I was playing around with the build editor and theory crafting, and now I've decided to switch the build to a Stam Sork.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I'm very excited for this Eternal Vigor set. Probably the number one set I'm most excited about for the new patch drop. And we talked about its perfect pairing with Ancient Dragon Guard.
Yeah.
And so
remind us, just in case people don't remember, remind us what those sets do exactly.
Yeah, sure. So Ancient Dragon Guard is the 5-piece. When you're above 50% health, it adds 300 weapon or spell damage. And then when you're below 50% health, it adds 3460 physical and spell resistance. So I love the idea that it, above 50% health, you're encouraged to be on the attack. And then when you're below 50% health, it kind of adds into your tankiness and makes you more tanky so you can have more opportunity to get your health back up to go back on the offensive. Eternal Vigor is basically just the perfect match with that set. Above 50% health, it adds 337 stamina and magicka recovery. Below 50% health, it adds 1011 health recovery.
Yeah.
Which is, in this upcoming patch, I think that's even going to be stronger than Troll King.
That's such a perfect pair. You have Ancient Dragon Guard, it gives you both damage and defense, and then you have this Eternal Vigor that gives you both sustain and defense. So like all the bases are covered between those two sets right there, and I imagine you have a lot of flexibility in what else you want to do with the build from there.
Yeah, so exactly, and so it just seems like such a perfect pairing. For the monster set, I went with Grundwolf just to add a little bit more sustain on both sides of things, because I think you need stamina, but you also need magicka. Mm-hmm. So just piecing those together, I found a really fun build. I think it's going to be really unique. And I think I'm actually really, really going to enjoy my sorcerer now. I went with dual wield.
Mm-hmm. Dual wield Stamsork is just so perfect. I love it.
Yeah, I'm just this is a build that I really am excited about. I'm really excited to get the Sork out there. I love both of these sets, and the fact that they just go together is even more exciting.
I feel like they intentionally. They made this sister set for Ancient Dragon Guard, right? I feel like that was their intention. We want these two sets to go together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's just, I love the idea of above 50% health. I'm all in on the offensive. I've got everything I need. I've got the sustain. I've got the damage. Below 50% health, I immediately, I'm like a turtle going into a shell. Mm-hmm. And then I did come up with one more build that I have to talk about. This one is a little ridiculous, but we've talked a little bit about it. I think I'm for sure going to do it. I was going to ask originally, is this just a silly idea or is it going to be a fun idea? So the last one I have is that I finally made a Nightblade. Uh-huh. It's going to be a Stam Blade, and the idea that I had with this is, I've wanted to make a werewolf build for a while. With the upcoming patch, werewolves are going to be very strong.
Yeah.
Plus, kind of goes with the theme of Greymoor, so I thought it'd be cool to have a werewolf. We've talked about how fun it would be to run around in Imperial City as a group with a bunch of werewolves.
Yeah, totally.
It'd be a lot of fun. So I don't have everything pieced together on this build, but I do have the idea, and the idea is that I'm actually going to make a gank blade, and when people get up in melee range or find me,
so
or
you mean
a
bow ganker?
A bow gank, yes, yeah. A bow gank build. And when people actually get up next to me and they actually finally get a hold of me, he'll transform into a werewolf, yes. And it'll be exactly what I wanted. So I'm this annoying stealth bow gank build that is, that we all know them. They annoy you, so you finally get frustrated, so you go after them.
And you're thinking, okay, this bow ganker role player, I'm gonna go get me an easy kill real quick, right?
Yeah. And that's when this guy turns into a werewolf.
I love
and
the
is
idea
all
of this
about.
build so much.
I think it's gonna be so much fun. It'll be perfect when people actually come do in melee range. That'll be the actual point of the build, is to be in the werewolf. So
yeah.
I think it'll be a lot of fun.
So you're just bow ganking people. They're gonna get pissed off. Come try to get a quick, easy kill, and then guess what? Werewolf, baby! And you just start giving them the claws.
Oh yeah. So yeah. I'm very, very excited about this. Yeah. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm pumped about the name. All my characters were all Nords. I'll only make Nords, so I always, I've got a character Never-Ending Nord, a Lord of Nords. This character I came up with. Gift of the Rift.
Gift of the Rift.
Gift of the Rift, which, as you all know, there's the Nord, there's a Skyrim Nord zone, the Rift. Mm-hmm. So very excited about this build. I don't have any sets or any of the skill bars made, just kind of the idea of it. And so that's something that going forward I'll start piecing together. But I do love the idea of being this annoying bow gank build that when they finally get to it turns into a werewolf and has a whole new set of problems. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's going to be freaking hilarious, especially if it's truly a deadly build, you're actually really killing people, which I'm sure you will.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Cool. Was that it?
I think that was it.
Sweet. Well, I'll talk a little bit about what I've been up to. I've been making a lot of builds as well. I've been working some more on my Stamplar, which I talked about before. So I think I have the gear locked in. I've changed it up a little bit since the last time we talked. So now I'm looking at Trappings of Invigoration, Hulking Draugr, and Grundwolf. And I think that's going to be a really awesome setup. I actually feel really confident about this one. I think between Trappings of Invigoration and Grundwolf, those two sets combined are going to be giving me so much sustain that I don't really need to invest in sustain otherwise. I can just go all damage on my glyphs, damage Moon to Stone, all of that. She's still going to have the same kind of roly-poly kind of playstyle that she had before because we're getting that base crit resistance added. So I'm just going to be doing 3 pieces of end pen and then well fitted on all the rest. So she's still going to have a lot of that cost reduction for sprinting and roll dodging. And she may even come out ahead with all the really good sustain that I'm getting from the sets. She might even, effectively be able to roll dodge and sprint even more than she did before.
It's a crazy thought because that's a roll dodge build. But
yeah, I love that speedy roly poly kind of play style. I know it annoys people, but every play style annoys somebody. So
I always respect your play style because I do think it's a high skill play style. I'm much more Nord tanky, and I think I openly admit I think that's a less skill play style. It's the one I enjoy.
I don't know if I'd use the word skilled. I'll use Zoss's language and say it's a high actions per minute playstyle, certainly.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And if you're actually like getting kills and like getting the job done, then it does take a bit of skill. I don't think it takes a lot of skill to just make a fast build and kite people around endlessly, and never kill anyone. I feel like that's probably not super difficult to do. But it's definitely a high actions per minute thing, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited about it. This is my very favorite character, and I think she's going to be better than ever. She's probably going to actually end up being my hardest hitting character, which is kind of wild because I have some very hard hitting characters. So that's that. I've also been working on a Stamina Necromancer build, and this dude's actually almost done. I have to transmute like 1 piece of armor, and then he's like totally finished. He's another roly-poly. I do play things with sides roly-polies, I promise. But it's just so fun on a Stamina Necromancer. He's a tiny little wood elf. It's a bow build, bow on the front bar. And he's using Bone Pirate, which is actually the set that Betsy used to be wearing, so he inherited that. He's putting that with Spriggan, and right now the monster set is a mismatch between Krog and Doma House. I think that might be what I keep, but I'm a little undecided on it. But it's super fun. It's a really speedy, speed capped roly-poly build. But having like my minions running around and stuff and being able to kind of weave in and out of them and line of sight them at the same time. And at the same time, those minions are healing me and damaging my enemies and all this other stuff. I haven't actually taken them into some BGs yet, but I feel confident that it's going to be a good, solid build that actually gets the job done and has this like zany, wacky kind of play style. So I'm really looking forward to that.
I'm excited for everyone to see the build video for this character because you really the whole experience isn't fully complete until you see the look of this character.
This guy looks amazing.
Man, it just makes everything so much better. This guy looks like he is straight up out of like a Halloween cartoon movie or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he's fantastic looking, and to see him in action, just rolling around, and he's speeding, he's moving, he's hitting people at range. This build's pretty awesome.
I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be super fun. So another build that I'm just now starting to work on, and it's probably too early to even really talk about it, but I just kind of hit upon this idea for a build last night that I'm just so stoked about. I just want to talk about it a little bit. So it's a Magicka Necromancer PvP support healer build, and this thing is going to be amazing. I can't wait. I'm still a ways off. I still have to farm some gear. I have some work to do to get this thing together. It's gonna be so cool. So right now this character is a dark elf. I'm thinking of changing to an Argonian. I'm pretty sure I'm going to do that. Just for the extra healing done. The sets that I'm going to be using, I'm pretty sure is going to be Healing Mage, aka Mending, with the new Cyrodiil crafted set Critical Riposte, and I think I'm going to use Earth Gore for the monster set. So if you don't know Healing Mage, this is a set. The 5-piece bonus makes it so that whenever you cast an AoE healing ability, it reduces the weapon damage of all nearby enemies by 430. So it's basically taking their New Moon Acolyte damage bonus away, because that's probably what they're wearing, right? And this critical riposte set, this thing is really cool too. So with the 5-piece, whenever you take critical damage, you reduce that enemy's critical strike chance and critical damage done by 10%, which is a pretty significant debuff, I would say. And another cool thing about this set is it gives you 2 lines of critical resistance. I think the 2 and the 4-piece bonuses are like 400 crit resist each, which is pretty unique. And what's cool about that is with this new base crit resistance that we're getting with Greymoor that's just being added to your character, that's enough. With the base crit resistance and the 2 lines that this set gives you, that's more critical resistance than I have right now with all Impin. So I'm going to go all divines on all 7 pieces. I'm using the healing Mundus, so that's going to bump that up to like 15% extra healing done. It's going to be sweet, and we're just like super going all in on healing done stats, right? I won't get into all the details right now, but there's like a bunch of percentage healing done amplifiers that are just getting my healing numbers to ridiculous heights, like
insane levels.
Radiating regeneration has a 30k tooltip, and I'm not talking about rapid regeneration. I'm talking about the longer duration one that heals for a lesser amount. It's healing for 30,000 over 10 seconds. So that's 3k per second, which of course your healing taken in PvP is reduced, but just going off of tooltips, it's a lot.
It is insane amount of heals.
The resistant flush, the main spammable heal, is going to be like 11,000, which is just outrageous. And my intensive mender, little spirit guy that follows me around, that's a 8-second long duration, and he's going to be healing for 9,000 every 2 seconds. So he's basically just automatically popping out Breath of Life every 2 seconds, and that's a smart heal, so that'll go to me or whoever needs it, whoever's low on health.
And who doesn't wish they didn't have a Magplar following them around all the time, popping Breath of Life every 2 seconds?
Without me even ever thinking about it, like there might be someone, an enemy standing behind me that I don't see, and he's about to die. Don't worry about it. The mender's got him.
Oh man, yeah.
So that's all the builds I've been working on. I've also been doing a lot of PvE. I think a lot of it along with you. We did that veteran Moongrave Fane run to get our Grundwolf. So now we both have a set of Grundwolf in our inventory. That's awesome. Wanting to...
We both come up with theory crafting that has Grundwolf on set.
Yeah. What a surprise. Yeah, it's an awesome set. And I've been wanting to get a hold of it basically since it has been in the game. So I'm glad that we did that. That was a really fun dungeon too. We talked about that.
So much fun.
It was, we did it on vet. We did not do hard mode, but we did do it on veteran. It was just the right amount of challenge. We were all in Discord talking. We wiped a few times, but we worked together. We used our brains. We figured it out. We got through it, and it wasn't like, I don't think at any point it was overly frustrating. It was just like a nice evening's entertainment.
Yeah. One of the most fun dungeons I've done in a long time.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. We also did Fang Layer to get me some of these Trappings of Invigoration pieces. I accidentally queued us for veteran on that one, even though we intended to do normal because we didn't need the monster set. But I accidentally queued for vet. I just wasn't paying attention to what we were doing. That is an incredibly difficult dungeon. We were not prepared for that. That final boss fight was frustrating.
All of the good things about what's the name of the Grundwolf dungeon? I'm sorry.
Moongrave Fane.
All the great things about Moongrave Fane, not the same on Fang Lair.
I mean, it's a well-designed dungeon. I think it's hard, man. It's difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it looks really cool, and I do agree. Like the design is cool. The story along, going through it is cool. I just like mechanics overload for especially the final fight. There's so much going on that I just feel like you you just lose yourself in what exactly the whole fight is about, because there's just so many things.
The boss has a second health bar as well.
Yeah.
So it's like this really frustrating fight, and then like, thank God it's finally over. Oh my God, it's not over. I have to fight this boss
not
all
over
again. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's really enjoyable to like maybe some more hardcore PvE people than we are. You know, we're basically PvP players who are just trying to get the gear. But man, that was a toughie.
Yeah.
Oh, if you hear sirens in the background, where I live, at noon every Saturday, they test the tornado sirens. So I don't know if the recording is picking that up, but if you can hear it, that's what it is. It's not an emergency. This happens noon every single Saturday. You know,
it is not a Silent Hill situation.
Yeah. I think that happened while we were recording last weekend, and I didn't acknowledge it. And then when I was listening back, I was like, "Oh man, that sounds scary." If you don't know what that is,
hey. Stuhn's goons are dedicated, all right? We're gonna get through scrolling regardless of what's going on.
And then the only other PvE thing I did is Veteran Aetherian Archive, the Craglorn trial, to get some of that those mending pieces, which I got like 4 pieces. And that was really cool. I'd never done that trial before, and it was a cool story because I'm in this really big guild. They're called Shades of Sithis. Shout out, really really awesome guild. And you know, I had this idea for this build, and I wanted to farm these pieces, and so my guild, I know they do trial runs and stuff all the time, but they don't have a schedule posted. There's not like a sign up thing or anything like that. So I just asked in the guild chat, like, hey, when do we do trials? Like, how do I sign up? And this dude, one of the officers in the guild, just asked me, well, what are you trying to get? And I told him, like, well, I want this mending set. And he's like, well, why don't we just do a run here in like 45 minutes? I'll get some people together. We'll just do it right now. I was like,
so awesome.
Man, I don't even know if I'm ready. I was thinking maybe here in a few days or next week sometime. But yeah, we did it, and he rounded some people up lickety split. It was kind of amazing to see. We all jumped on Discord, got on voice. This dude is a professional, man. I was really impressed by this guy. I don't know if he'd want me to say his name on the podcast. I didn't ask him, so I'll just leave it out. But you can tell this dude has been running guilds for a long time. He knew every aspect of this trial run. He knew exactly where to tell everyone to stand. Honestly, it wasn't even hard. It wasn't even hard at all because he was just holding our hand every step of the way. I was really impressed with this dude. He was just super nice and friendly and just awesome the whole time. It was a really, really cool experience. And the trial it looks cool. It was neat. I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. It's just cool to get the experience of that, and to have someone like that to go with you to make it an even more enjoyable experience. Just really cool.
Yeah, it was great. So he told me to hit him up again because I didn't get all the pieces I needed. So he said we can probably do another run sometime this weekend. So I'm going to hit him up probably, I don't know, maybe this evening sometime, try to make that happen. And that is all I've been up to in the Elder Scrolls Online here lately. And I think we're getting close to the end of our podcast here. Really quick before we go, I want to just acknowledge a couple of things. I want to make a self-correction here. I don't know if necessarily a correction or just an elucidation, but the mythic items in the Antiquities system, we were talking about it before, and I think I said something that made it unclear, but basically I've discovered that these mythic items are broken into multiple pieces. So you don't find a lead for just one mythic item. You find a lead for one of 5 pieces of that mythic item, and then you go find each one of those pieces. You know, got to get a lead for each one, and then you put them together, and then you have the mythic item. So
that makes sense.
A bit more of a grind than I was thinking, and that information has been out there all along. I just overlooked it when we were talking about it. I just didn't have that info in my brain.
It's going to be interesting to see how rare these mythic items are going to be. You know, is this going to be something that everybody, all the high level players you run into are going to have them, or is this going to be something that is, really, really a rare thing, a rare sight?
Yeah, I'm curious to see like a year from now how common these things are in people's builds.
Yeah, exactly.
And then another thing, I shouted out to Varish earlier because he pointed out that the new werewolf and vampire skill lines on the Crown Store are changing. He also pointed out, we talked about on the last episode, I asked why the chests in Imperial City glow purple, and we didn't know why that was. He's telling us they glow purple because they have a lot of Telvar inside of them, and that's what it's indicating. And there are also lots of chests in Imperial City that don't glow purple because they don't have a lot of Telvar. So thank you, Tavarish, for clearing those couple of things up for us. Please keep those kinds of comments coming. You can always get a hold of us at scrollinpodcast@gmail.com. Send any questions, comments, corrections, funny jokes, whatever. Just send that our way. Love to hear from you. And if you want, we can read it on the podcast like we're doing right now. Anything to say before we head out, Davius?
A quick couple things. I have to say, it's not even me saying this now. It's actually Zos. Create a Nord. 5 fun ways right now to do.
Number 1.
First one, create a Nord. I mean, I'm telling you, Zos is listening to this podcast. Yeah. And then the second thing, shout out for Students Goons, guys. Still, reach out in game, or Ket, he'll probably provide some information, but reach out, join up, guys. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I got to get better about the Students Goons, reminding people. So yeah, you can email Scrollin Podcast and ask to be admitted into the Goons. You can send me or Davius an invite in game. It's at Ket Sparrowhawk for me, at Starjumper for Davius. I'm just going to say that for you. Hope you don't mind.
Yeah. No, you say it much. You say it much better than I do. It sounds much better.
So yeah, if you want to be a Students Goon, go right ahead. We're growing exponentially right now, so it's a good time to get in. And yeah, I think that's it. I think that's going to be the end of the podcast. Thanks for listening.